good to see you here with Bren. This is like an incredible experience to be able to be in the room with Bren McClain and all of you. Put your where you're zooming in from in the chat if you don't mind, and we will be able to see who's from where today. That would be great. It's beautiful here in New England. Bren, how is it there in South Carolina?
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's probably upper 70s. It's idyllic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Did you guys get the storm last night or?
No, no, not really. It's all been kind of missed us, but we're good.
Oh,
Well,
good.
look where everybody is. My gosh.
No, it's like amazing how many people are here from all over to see you, Lovey.
Well, oh my gosh, don't put any pressure on me. Well, I look forward to seeing everybody here and meeting folks. Oh, we've got Greenville, South Carolina. Oh, Debbie, that's Debbie Holdrick. That's a friend of mine. Okay,
Oh,
cool.
Debbie, New Jersey, New Hampshire, West Virginia, Ontario, and California. Hi, Kyla Dawn. I sent Kyla a thing saying you're gonna love Bren. Central California, Massachusetts, East Somerston, Vermont. Hi, Juliet. Brooklyn, Malibu, Palm Beach. Hi, Bianca. This is in New Hampshire. It's so good to see you guys all. And thank you so much, Bren, for coming. It's always really incredible to have you. Bren was in the very first Gateless Academy that we ran, and she was the one who termed our time together church because it was like so sacred when we were together talking about, yeah, the power of the word and how to make it through and how to navigate the world and leave the conditioning behind to, create craft and all of it. So yeah, Bren, you are just one of my very favorite. And we met when I was on book tour, my first book tour, I think it was, maybe my second. I can't really remember.
It was in Lawrenceville, Tennessee.
Oh, was it
Lawrenceville, Tennessee. Yeah,
Prince?
it was William Gay was there. You
Oh,
were there.
yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
at Kathy Pelletier's house for that
Yeah, like
weekend?
a big, yeah. I actually had to go get William. He was at a bar in Hohenwald,
I,
Tennessee. And I
I
had,
remember.
and Kathy was like, go and get him out. And I was like, okay, William. And so he bought a six pack from the bartender and he drank it on our
I
way.
know he had it was Pabst Blue Ribbon, wasn't it? I remember
Oh, yeah.
he had that. It was when I met him. I remember that.
God, he was one of a kind. And then I remember them all trying to like, they were all getting in a car because like some of us were staying somewhere else. And all the men were getting in this car and they couldn't figure out like how to move the seat forward so they could get him back. And Kathy goes, it's no wonder why y'all lost the war.
Is that what she said? That's so cool.
Bunch
That's
of
so Kathy
southern
too.
bunch of southern guys and couldn't figure out how to spell it. Anyway, Bren, thanks for coming. It's so good to have you here. I'm so
I
happy.
love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
And One Good Mama Bone is in back of you. This is her first book. She's at work on a second with Faye Bender. The book group is her agent. And I love One Good Mama Bone so much, Bren. And you had
Oh,
inspiration for that novel, right?
oh gosh, yeah. I was inspired twice by it actually, and it's what is required for me to, spend 5, 6, 7 years writing a novel. I feel as though I have to be chosen. I mean, I use that word. I must be chosen, and I was chosen twice for uh, for my Mama Bone novel. Absolutely.
How? Tell us.
Oh,
Yeah.
so the first time I was chosen, well, first of all, let me just say that One Good Mama Bone is what became of a failed novel. All right. It was called Willie June way back in the day. I think I was working on that when I met you. I mean, long, long, long time ago. And the choosing for that story was I was living in Atlanta and a neighbor of mine called me over and said, "Hey, can you come talk to me?" I've got good Southern manners. You know that about me. And I go and sit on the porch and he said, "I turned 60 today." I said, "Oh, happy birthday, Ron." He goes, "I only tell you that because I've been carrying around a secret for 54 years." I was a boy, 6 years old, growing up outside of Birmingham, when one night my mom came and got me up out of bed and made me witness and participate in this horrible, horrible thing. And his voice is cracking at this point, and he said, I'm only telling you because you're a writer. I made a promise to my mother that night that I would never tell a soul what happened, but I can't be true to it anymore. And I'm choosing you, Bren, to tell, knowing you're a writer. So he hands me this. I mean, it's atrocious, but it involved the birth of the baby. And so I wrote that novel, Suzanne, but it just flat didn't work. I knew that I wanted to write about mothers. My own mother, who was really my best friend, died while I was writing. And man, it was a complete mess. I put it up. And then, a couple of years after that, I was visiting my father on the farm that I grew up on in South Carolina. And it was in the midst of a weaning. That is when beef cattle farmers separate the babies from the mamas. And those sounds woke me up in the middle of the night. I get dressed, I go outside, I follow the sounds, and it's this woeful, oh, the mama cows calling for their babies 30 yards away. And I knew in front of me was the missing piece of my motherhood story. That other Willie June version that I'd read, I needed to go. And this is what this maternal love between this mother cow and their baby became kind of the centerpiece that I began to build around. And so I went over to her and I made a promise to her that morning. I said, Mama Red, I called her Mama Red right on the spot. I can't bring your baby back, sweetheart, but I'm going to tell your story. So I feel as though for Mama Bone, I was chosen twice because what I did was I kept that opening secret that man had told me, but I messed with it. I did not keep it exactly the way he said it. You know, Randall Keenan said one time, in order to write fiction, you got to get the journalism out of the way, out of the way. And so I got the journalism out of the way and was able to reconfigure it. And my gosh, I wrote One Good Mama Bone, and I'm so glad I did. That other book just needs to go away, but Mama Bone is the one, is the keeper.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because it felt like when we talked about that trajectory from the first to the second, it was almost like you were on like a step. And then
Mm.
that was one step, that book. And then you came to the actual landing, which was, One Good Mama Bone. And the idea behind it, it's almost like that was like a spark, and then you took off with this fire. And really, this book has become a fire. I mean, it had this huge cult following, and you were just right. You were saying like
Yeah,
277 book clubs, you said
I
in.
have. Yeah, 277 book clubs. It's been, and you used a word once with me, organic. It's been organic, and people talk about the book finding its legs. I guess that's another way of putting it, but it's just been the most remarkable experience I've ever had in my life, and I think I owe it to staying true to what had called to me, because I will tell you, and I'll tell everybody else, there were moments in the writing of Mama Bone that this little non-friend sat on my shoulder and said, now Bren, you sure you want to write about a cow? I don't know that that's marketing. That doesn't make a lot of sense in marketing. I don't think people want to read about cows. But every now and then I had that awful, awful little voice in my head to say that to me. And I always squashed it. And I'm so glad I did, because it is the cow, it is Mama Red that has made all the difference. This is the latest example of a gift that my readers have given to me. This is an original painting of Mama Red. I have a dozen of them. I have a dozen original paintings of Mama Red because I think she's the heart of the novel. And so I like to have her with me right here.
Yeah, she's so beautiful. And it so much catches her spirit. And there's something about the innocence. And that juxtapose with the violence that's sort of in our world as part of humanity, not all of humanity,
Mm,
but it's there, and it's something that we don't know how to navigate. And when we get desensitized and when we read One Good Mama Bone, it allows us to feel, I think.
mm,
And there's
mm.
like two very interesting things that, I mean, I would say three that you've just said that are core to the writing process, I think. One is this idea that we do have to get the journalism out of the way. We have to get the true story, in a way, out of the way. We carry the energy of the true story, but we allow our book to be what it wants to be. It doesn't want to be in the straitjacket of reality. It wants to
No,
burst
no.
and become something else. And then this idea that the book is, that has a centrifugal force of a love story. And it's
It
often an
does.
unexpected love story.
It does. And as a matter of fact, the publication date for Mama Bone was February 14th. And I asked my publisher, I said, wait a minute, you know that's Valentine's Day, right? And he said, Bren, you've written a love story. And oh my gosh, tears, 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 but absolutely.
Yeah. And the third thing that you said was like, she's speaking to you, the story is calling to you, and then the critic is sort of on the shoulder saying, "Oh, you can't write about a cow," and all of that we get that's like this rational but actually irrational voice that
True,
wants
true.
to
Yes.
control the process that you didn't listen to. So like, and that is a path that it seems easy, this path of nonconformity, but it actually is not. And
No.
all along, to write about love, to be willing to write about the cow, to be willing to use the imagination and not the journalistic mind. And like as we said, before, that you flew off from that MFA program when you realized it was going to be based on elitism and criticism, and you were like, no, my work deserves better. So like, what is it, Bren? If you had to deconstruct that about yourself, and I know you, so I know that comes naturally too, but like, what would you tell other people in terms of how do you continue to follow that compass of light and love?
I I listen to myself. I read a, do you know who I think her name is Margaret Wrinkle. I think she's in Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken. She said, you don't have to decide, you just have to listen.
Mm,
And that deciding thing is up here in the head. That deciding thing is, oh gosh, Bran, you shouldn't write about a cow. Nobody wants to read about a cow. Why don't you write about a dog? Everybody loves dogs. That's up here. But I listened to what, first of all, I'd made a promise to, and second, what was alive on the page. Because every time I was with Mama Red, honey, it was church. It was church. There's a narrative voice in the novel where I think about the camera. The camera is with Mama Red. It's her consciousness. I had an agent ask me one time, well, does the cow talk? No, no, the cow doesn't talk. But I'm in her consciousness, and that was a real, and I didn't realize it at the time, but that was a real risk to put a camera in a cow's consciousness. But I'm gonna tell you something, and I'll tell everybody on this call. It's where I was alive on the page. It was so alive. I mean, it felt like I just needed to, it was a radio station I just needed to tune into. And so, about being nonconformist, I just really, it's about the work, it's about the story, and it's about doing justice to that particular story, what that particular story wants to be. And it's about, in my way of thinking, listening. And how do you listen? I listen with my body. All
mhm,
right. I listen with my body because, I mean, we've all probably been writing things and we just want to go take a nap, you know, and what that tells me is it's not working on the page. The energy's gone. There's maybe no tension. Maybe I don't love my character. I don't know. Maybe they're doing something they shouldn't, they don't want to do. I don't know. But my body tells me. And when I am really tuned in and on the page and it's alive, Honey, I could write and write and write, and I feel fueled. So I think listening to our bodies is very, very important.
Yeah, definitely. And listening to the characters, like serving them, because in a sense, they're silent without your pen, without you putting them on the page and manifesting them there and make concretizing them. And even when we're talking about this next book that we've been talking about where moved from indie publishing to this very big agent actually. And when we were talking about the revisions and everything, and you said, well, I decided to do these revisions because more people would know her story then. It's really that's it's in service to. Once you have that mission of being in service to the characters, rather than
Yes.
self, rather than the audience, but like what is this character who's silenced without me want?
Mm.
It's
Isn't
really
that it? Well, that's a very emotional thing you just said, Suzanne. That our characters would be silent without us. I mean, how powerful is that?
Mhm.
And so, for that reason, we got to show up 1,000%. And things that aren't our friends, like that inner critic, or like trying to match some kind of marketing something something, that's not our friend either. Our characters are just, they want to be listened to, and I want to give them the very best life I'm capable of.
Yeah, and you do. I mean, your writing also is so beautiful. I would like it, if you don't mind, if you could give people a sample, Bren, of your work, because not everybody has read you yet, and for them to hear your voice on the page because it is beyond writing. I mean, I think we said
Oh.
that in retreat, like when you when you would read, you're like, okay, that is writing, but that's like beyond writing. So yeah, it would be
Oh,
great to hear.
thank you. And I tell you, I'm going to read something I've never read in public, although I did the audio book. I read my own audio book, so I have read it. But I just feel very close, and I was telling you this before the call began. Y'all, I'm feeling very close to Mama Red. I just feel her calling me, and I'm going to read when we're introduced to her. It's kind of the second chapter of the novel. Just going to read the first page. That's all I'm going to do to give you a sense. And folks, when this is the cow's consciousness that I was talking about, and um it's sacred to me, okay? So my voice might change a little bit because of how I feel about it. I'm going to take the jacket off, and so I can just read this. All right. The mother cow left the herd under a ceiling of darkness, as dots of white, even twinkling white, sprinkled above her and around her in patterns of order and beauty. She headed across the pasture. The light from the full moon lit her way, but she did not need it to see. She knew where she was going. She had made the trip a dozen times before over this familiar land. The other cows did not follow, although it was customary for them to do so when one decided to move. But this early morning, for this mother, none of the others moved. She crossed the earthen dam that held back the pond's muddy waters, made her way to the creek, where the flow over the years had carved deep and jagged into the red clay soil. She arrived at a spot on its bank near an old cedar tree, dropped to her knees, folding herself onto the earth. At first, I hope I can get through this. She held her head high, but as daylight dawned, she lowered it, surrendering herself in full. The mother had come to deliver one of her own. Neither the farmer nor his working man had noticed her udder, how it had begun to sack up, nor had they noticed the top of her tail rising and her lower back softening, her ligaments and tissues becoming supple, so that her babies, twins, lying on their backs and surrounded in fluid warmth, could follow their natural course and move from their high place near her tail head, past her pin bones, to their new place, deep in her womb, where they rotated to their bellies for the rest of their journey. Like the times before, There would be no mother or sister or friend to instruct her as to what to do. She would know, and it would come from a place, oof, deep inside, where maternal love lives and maternal love grows. A place that is regardless there, never wavering there, non negotiably there. It lay in her bones.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. It's one of my favorite also parts of your work is that you can go into these areas that like nobody else can go into. You know, like no who else has ever been inside the womb of a cow? Like it's unbelievable, really, how that happens, and it's just so beautiful. It's just incredible writing. And how do you do it, Bren? Would you be able to say that? Like, how is it that you get in there?
I write in darkness, first off. And sometimes I even blind myself on top of that. Um, the world that we live in is beautiful, but when I write and when I create, Suzanne, I need to be 1,000% available. And I need to see and hear and feel what goes through my mind. And it's like a movie, Suzanne, that I see, I create in my head and I just get it down on the page. Now, but for that one, I've never been a cow. I've never had a calf. I never, did any of that kind of stuff. But I just tuned in. That might be too trite to say, but I 1,000,000,000,000% tune in, and writing in darkness helps me do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's so interesting because it is outside the conditioning of the quotidian world, of the busy world, of the conditioning of our world, all the systems and the external demands. And I remember you saying that you get up, right? I think you told me this during the academy, and you go, is it like a little room under the stairs or something that you go to?
In my former house, that's what I did. But I get up in the morning, folks. I have no alarm. My deal with myself is when I wake up, I get up. And it could be 1 o'clock, it could be 1:30, it could be 2:33, but never past 3:30. I get up really, really early. And it's when I'm at my most pure, The world hadn't gotten a hold of me yet. I haven't checked the news. I do have some coffee. Um, but I'm just, because, sometimes folks, we give writing crumbs. I think of as crumbs. And what I mean by that is what's left over. We kind of get around to it eventually with what's left over. But what I want to do and what I like to do and what I live to do is to give my best first thing, all of me.
Yeah, yeah. And where do you think that if it's discipline, and I use discipline lightly, you can be a disciple to the art, you can be a disciple to the characters, to the writing, but where do you think that generates from? Like, is that something that you've known about yourself since childhood? Was your mother a disciple to something? Like, how does that happen? Do you think that we are able to sort of bound beyond the dopamine rush and the like
Mm,
that we have to get involved right away with our lives? And
you know, it's I don't feel like I have a choice. I feel like I'm wired this way. I grew up on a farm, and so farmers have early lives, and so I think probably that was set in me as a little girl, because unlike most of my friends, in the summer who could go off and play and blah, blah, blah. Oh my gosh, we had to get in the garden and work. You get up and you start working. Also, my father supplemented his farming income by being a rural mail carrier. So he got up really, really early to go, to the post office. And beginning in the fifth grade, I got up with him and cooked his breakfast every morning at 5 o'clock. So I think I have a propensity for being, I must be a chicken. In another life, I get up, before really when the roosters are crowing and go to bed with the chickens. I don't know. I can't imagine life any other way.
What time do you go to sleep?
I'm gonna embarrass myself now. Darling, if I can get away with it, 5 o'clock. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, I know. And even in the summer when the sun, is 4 more hours before it sets, I can still sleep. I've just programmed myself this way. I don't eat dinner, so, I don't have to do that kind of stuff. But no, I mean, I think it's important that we get a routine,
Yeah.
whatever that means to you, whatever. Some people I know write late, but I think routine is important. I think we tell our brains, okay, Bran, this is what we do now. This is the time for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so true. And everybody's different too about how much sleep they need and how much sleep they need to be, productive. And like this idea that we're all supposed to go to bed at a certain time and get up at a certain time. And like, that's what I mean, that you kind of find your own rhythms in life
Yeah.
and you trust those rhythms, which is just
Yes.
beautiful. It's just beautiful. And that the farm, I mean, two things about the selection that you read struck me. This idea that we can tune into the energetic understanding of something, even if we don't have that exact experience. And then also that, it's a character, but it's also a cow. And there's so much wrong, like both tactic, like in a real tactical way about what we're doing to cows,
Yeah.
the football field a minute and all of the slaughtering and everything. But then there's this other thing of like they don't have any voice.
No.
They're just shoved into these terrible conditions so that we
Ugh,
can have a hamburger or whatever. So, and
that's
I'm
right.
not saying like everybody has to be vegan, but I am saying that there's some way in which the author in this case has given voice to a being that doesn't have a voice. And I feel that about your newest book too, because I've seen a lot of that book of
Mm.
like this idea of like I'm going to give voice not only to that character who has its base in a historical reality that's fictionalized now, but also like that kind of character, that person that like is just stowed away and everybody forgets about her. And so can you tell us a little bit about that character and about that book, Bren? And
Right, right. So, folks, this next book that I'm writing is based on a real historical event, not only in South Carolina, but our nation. In 1950, the federal government shoved 6,000 people off their dirt poor farms, 250,000 acres, to build the Savannah River plant, the hydrogen bomb plant, to create the super bomb to go up against the Russians, the largest use of eminent domain in a time of peace. I did oral histories with 20 something people 20 years ago. They're all dead now. And so what I did was craft a novel around the one story, the one person that bothered me the most, that tore my heart up the most. And it's a woman named Eula Bates, y'all. She lived with her brother on a 30-acre farm. The government did not need to take the entire farm, but the government did need to run a 4-lane blacktop through the middle of it. Eula said, no, I will not give you the right of way. Now, let me put this in context. This was very unusual. This is right 1950, right after World War II. High, high, high patriotism in this country. So most people, gave the government the right of way, begrudgingly, but nonetheless did. Eula said, not just no, but hell no. And she was 52 at the time. Her brother was 48. Um, and On August 27th, 1951, the bulldozers now are closing in on her. They're about to knock down her hog wire fence, y'all. She got out there with her rifle, held the rifle on the shotgun guy. I mean, on the bulldozer. The cops came, put her under arrest, and her brother. And you would think, okay, Bran, all right, she probably shouldn't Um, Eula sounds like the author. I know, because I'm a little cantankerous and non-conventional also. I get that. Maybe that's why I'm
Birds
so
of a
prone.
feather, baby. Birds of a feather.
Birds of a feather. Anyway, y'all, I thought, you'd think, okay, they'll take her to jail for a night while the bulldozer does its thing, right? No, 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 no. And this is what got me. Yo, they hauled Eula and her brother to Columbia, state capital of South Carolina, to the state mental asylum, declared both of them mentally incompetent, kept them for 16 years.
Mm, my God.
Yeah, and so my gosh, and I'll be honest with you, I didn't know if I could fall in love again as deeply as I had for Sarah, my main character, and Mama Bone and Mama Red. I just didn't know. I didn't know if I could give myself that much, that 1,000% that I keep talking about. But oh my gosh, yes. Oh yes, yes. I have given myself over completely to Eula Bates. I adore that woman, and I cannot wait for readers to know what I know about her.
Yeah, and the work, just so you guys know, from a, objective place is just it's just so powerful. I mean, she is definitely alive in those pages. It's just arresting. And I think the idea that, again, that there's a voice to this, as Karen Kenny says, this travesty of justice, this like, I mean, it's just horrible that that is what they
Mm.
decided to do.
Yeah.
It and then to give the voice there is so fascinating. I think that there's a willingness there to be like, oh no, this does not stay silent. I mean, the story
Mhm.
itself, but also that woman who was so brave.
So brave. Can you imagine? So brave. I was around a government person a couple of years ago, and the Savannah River plant people know I'm doing this because I make it known. I'm not keeping it a secret. I go on public tours up there and they know I'm writing this novel. And I had this guy who was head of something, something say to me, how did you come by this story? And I felt a little threatened because he's a high muckety muck. Why did I say that? But my answer was God. Really, I mean, if you can extrapolate, 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 that's exactly what I believe. Yes.
Yeah. And Sarah Johnson says, and she's pissed.
And she's pissed. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yep. Yeah. But Eula Bates, I mean, what a remarkable, resilient fighter. Oh my God. I
And
love Eula Bates.
is that her name, love? Her real name?
Yeah, her name is Eula Emma Bates. And I asked my agent if we'd be able to keep it. And she said, yes, of course, lawyers will get a hold of it because I am not defaming her. I'm actually glorifying her.
Mm.
I'm hoping that I can keep her name.
Wow, that's incredible. That is just an incredible story. I didn't realize that. I thought you made up Eula Banks. I didn't,
Did you
yeah,
really?
Eula
No.
Bates. Yeah, I didn't know. I thought that was a name that you had given her and that this was that is fantastic, Bren.
So I just, I love it. Hey, listen, the novel kicks off with two sentences. May I read just the
Yeah.
opening? It's just two sentences, folks. It just sets along, and then you turn the page and it says part one. But it says, Lower Savannah River Valley. For these people, these good people of the Savannah and this ancient swath, where families have lived, been caretakers of the land for generations, have built farms and businesses, have called home. A day would come that would alter the course of their lives forever. And so much so, a seventh generation boy of 15 at the time would say a half century later, when I die and get to heaven, I'm going to look up somebody with authority and ask, why? Why did you let this happen?
Wow. Yeah, and it's an answering too. Oh my God, that's beautiful. And what is the title of this book?
Um,
Do you know yet?
I no, because folks, I'd written this really. My go-to voice is a really close third-person voice. That's where I'm most comfortable. We've got some interest from an editor who wants me to widen the lens, bring in more of the community, make it a broader story. Keep Eula, absolutely, but kind of share the wealth. And so the title that I had submitted it under was The Miracle of Eula Bates. But I'm not sure what's going to happen to that with this rewrite.
Mm, beautiful. And there's another question. There's a couple questions that I really like. One of them is about the arc that you create. We talk a lot about the arc in the academy and how to build the arc and when the arc comes in and how each character has to have the arc and like the arc of the illness, the arc of the town, all of it. So I love this question from Chris Young, and she's saying, I just finished One Good Mama Bone and
Oh,
wonder about each character's arc because they're so complete, and whether you could speak to how it reveals itself. Like, does it reveal itself as you write, or is there kind of an editing, rewriting that also you do? Um,
mm-hmm.
Especially related to Little LC, like what is the,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. So, folks, I do not outline. I'm a what's it called? A pantser? Is that what it's called, Suzanne? When you kind of fly by the seat of your pants? Why is it? And it's why it takes so long. But it's also very organic. What I do have though is what I think of as a stake in the ground to hit before the story's over. One stake, one simple stake. For Mama Bone, the simple stake was when we meet Sarah, she doesn't think she has a mama bone. That is maternal instinct. All right. So the arc, Sarah's arc for the story, the stake I needed to hit was, by God, she needs to know she has a mama bone. And that's all I had in the book. That's the only guidance I had in my head. And I had to write towards that. And I had to figure out how in the world she was going to shed this old narrative that she was thinking about herself. That is, I don't have a mama bone. How in the world is she going to move all the way to the opposite to, you know what? I do have a mama bone. And that's all I wanted to do in that novel. Now, you referenced Little Elsie. Little Elsie is the son of the antagonist, a guy named Luther Dobbins, this big macho, false bravado, cattle farmer in Anderson. And precious little Elsie is his son. I did not have a stake for him. I did not have it. I left myself wide open. I knew, though, that little LC's fate, his arc, was tied up in his father's. And I knew that he would go as Luther went. And so there was a scene in the novel, oh gosh, 60% in, maybe 65. When I knew the outcome for little LC, I saw it in my head. Remember, I said it's a movie. I was in this one scene, and those of you who've read it, it's the hammer mill scene. And Luther, big old macho guy, has given Uncle the Saturday off because I'm a good man. Luther had been living for 6 days as a good man on this earth. And he wanted to have this bonding time with little Elsie. And so they're out there at the hammer mill, and little LC has his shovel and he's shoveling in corn, ears of corn. And his dad, Luther, is bagging up the corn as it's being chopped up, coming down in these bags. Well, Luther hears this racket. And as I was writing, I'm going, what in the world is, oh my gosh, what happened? What happened? What happened? And y'all, in my brain skipped where I was in the movie. It skipped, boom, all the way to the end. And I saw what was going to happen. And I screamed, no, 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 we're not going to have that. Please don't. No, 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 no. Now, Bren, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. But y'all, I marched right up to it exactly as I had seen it. Um, and so these character arcs, and I know this sounds lame of me, but it's not something I consciously do. I think it goes back to being that knitted, that tightly knitted in my characters, and paying attention to them. And I think my subconscious or something must be working it out. I don't know. But I do firmly believe in giving all characters an arc. There's a minor character in the novel, Ike Thrasher, and he's a, well, minor slash major, but he's not an antagonist or a protagonist. And my gosh, I mean, I've been asked before, why did you develop him so? Because he's just really kind of a minor character. I mean, you gave him his own arc. It's because I believe in that. I believe that we, even with minor characters, they have to have their own arc. And so, I don't know if that answers the question. It's probably, I don't know. Did that help at all? Who asked that question?
Chris Young, I think it helps a lot. And I think it's important to also say, like, that it doesn't happen the same for every person. Like for Bren, and we're going to talk about how she surrenders because somebody else has a question about that. It kind of happens. And sometimes you do have to look back and ask those questions. Does each character have an arc? How do I create that arc? And when we talk about it in the academy, it's like those lily pads that we used to talk about, Bren, of like, you have to
Yeah.
create these scenes, and the scenes, they build to this arc. And you tend to be able to merge with the character in such a way that they show you their arc. Every character has an arc. You're not actually implementing it onto them. It's just that when you go back and realize, oh, this character doesn't have an arc, you listen to find it. You try it out, I think. And it's just beautiful to hear you talk about it in those terms, because you're saying, like, if you listen hard enough, the arc is already there. You're
Yeah, it is. And may I say one other thing about how I create characters? Um, I put the squeeze on them. I have to
yeah,
get them in trouble. I mean, I have to put big squeeze, not a little squeeze. I mean, Sarah Kramer, for example, my protagonist. I mean, my gosh, she's impoverished. She's looking for crumbs to feed her son. People have said, readers have said, Bram, why did you make her so poor? And I said, because I had to put the squeeze on her. I have to put the squeeze. I have to put them in circumstances that are tough, y'all, that are tough. And why do I do that? I do it to see what they're made of, right? Because I give my characters the opportunity to take themselves to a higher place. But without the trouble and without the squeezing and the conflict, they would never get there. I mean, I think of Sarah Kramer. Sarah Kramer, we begin the novel, she doesn't think she has a mama bone. If I had not put her in dire circumstances, if I had not just squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, Sarah Kramer could have gone out of this world not knowing that she had a mama bone. And it's through hardship that this comes. So I like to put the squeeze on my characters, give them the opportunity to take themselves to a higher place. Not all
yeah.
characters do, not all characters can, but I give them the opportunity. I think that's important.
Beautiful. And Karen Kenny was asking about that surrender, like when you surrender to be the living voice of the characters, like a channel, so to speak, just like getting the journalism out of the way. Do you, in some ways, also have to get like yourself out of the way, or are you tapping into parts of you at the same time?
Yes, all I think at the same time. I think I've been doing this so long, y'all. I've been writing fiction since 1988. And so it's a daily practice for me. And I think that's a good word, practice. I think it needs to become a practice. And my brain just kind of knows what to do when I show up.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, yeah, it is a practice. That's true. And it's like if you don't ride your bike for a while, it's gonna feel awkward. Yeah, I love that. And that idea of like knowing you're rising to write, knowing you're rising to write, knowing you're, you know what I mean? It's like then the subconscious kicks in and you're sort of merged with it, it sounds like. And
Hmm.
Emma is saying, I'm curious how you hold the tension of a powerful story like that about Eula with the history that precedes that particular slice of horror, how the land came to be for those 7 generations of farmers to begin with, how to frame a story, what frames and context to include it or not, and where to find the beginning and the end. That's a freaking awesome question of the
God, what a great question.
awesome, Emma.
Yeah, so my original, I mean, the version of my Eula story that went out on submission uh, included a front story, all right? And it was Eula, folks, as a 78-year-old woman who busts out of this house that they've got her in after they released her from the mental institution. And of course, y'all, her brain was fried. Give me a break. And they put her in this little rental home, please. And so in that version, they're about to put her in a nursing home. And by George, Eula's not going to be put anywhere else. All she wants to do is go home. And so this 78-year-old woman in this dilapidated mental and physical state busts out of this window the night before she's supposed to be taken to a nursing home. And because she wants to go home. And the problem is, she didn't even know where she is. She has no idea where she is. She thinks she's in South Carolina, but by George, she's going to go home. And so that kind of drive as she was going home, making her way back home, that was the front story, 1978. And then what I did in that version is I was cutting in her past, beginning with 1914, when she has her Sweet 16 party, which set her on a different course in her life. And I was like cutting that in, kind of the building blocks of her life into that 1978 front story. But that's gone now. I'm writing another version, and this one is chronological. I'm taking it just like I'm just building as I go. And I'm hoping that that paragraph that I read sets up kind of a frame that the story is going to fit in. Suzanne, you said, the novel then is the answer to that, is the answer to the question that I pose. And so, I and I'm a character writer, and so what I want is I want my readers to fall in love with my people and to root for them, to know what it is they're after, to be clear on what it is they're after, the character is after, and to root along with them as they get there. And so we watch Eula's land being taken. We watch all of that. We watch her be hauled off. We also watch other people in the town. Like I'll give you an example of a story that's going in this version. I was told that about 3 months after the bomb plant, that's what we call it in South Carolina, was announced, the government just, I mean, people hadn't even moved yet. The government just came in and started knocking down fences. These are farmlands, just knocking them down willy-nilly, just boom, boom, boom. And this woman tells me that she'd gone to town to get some supplies, came back, and her cows were in the middle of town eating people's flowers. That was bad enough, but she said, wait a minute, I wonder if my hogs are still in what she calls the hog parlor. So she goes looking for her hogs, people, and she found them drunk. The hogs were drunk. The fences were knocked down. The hogs had gotten into a mash still and drank and ate all of the mash. And she said that it took 2 weeks for the hogs to sober up.
My God.
Yeah, and so we're going to meet, and that's Mrs. Roundtree. We're going to meet other characters and see how they were impacted along with Eula. But Eula is the soul of the novel.
Yeah, yeah, she's the soul of the novel. You can really feel it when you read her or hear you reading her that there's like a real it's centrifugal force around which we're spinning. I like your title a lot. I think it's
You
good.
like what? The Miracle of Eula Bates?
Yeah, I do. I think it's cool when there's like a person's name in the title because we feel then like we know we're directed, we're focused. And then the miracle is like this question of like, what does that actually mean? And I think there can be a large global frame or a large, a wider lens around, even if it's focused on that person, because we do all have kind of we have a bigger place than we realize, I think, in the world. And sometimes it's so nice when the author kind of pans out and shows that,
Mhm.
it's really,
Yeah, I like the miracle too. And the reason I like the word miracle, it comes from the first chapter in the novel, the word miracle. It's a conversation Eula has with her father when she's 16. But I like the word miracle because, this is a sad story, that these people's lives were upended. And like consciously planting the word miracle in the title, to me tells the reader that it's not just all a big mess, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, truly, yeah. And that that even someone like that who doesn't have a voice, who is getting subjugated by a system of oppression, who, is a miracle, like that is where miracles live,
Ooh, ooh,
you
I
know.
love that. Love that thinking. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, really beautiful. Yeah, so Donna Nucci, who's coming to the next retreat, says she plans to work on her novel at the Gateless Retreat and how hard it is to put your loved characters into hard situations, heartbreaking, when you feel you are them in so many ways. Yeah, and I love what you said, Bren, about that, which is like
Mm.
it's a life lesson to say like, well, I do this so that they have the opportunity to show their strength, you know.
Exactly, exactly. That's it right there. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's why I have to do that. I mean, otherwise, if I had not had all of that pressure on you, like I said, I mean, Sarah, she could have gone out of this world not knowing she had a mama bone, and so
Yeah.
I'm doing her a favor.
Absolutely. And Colleen was saying, like, I mean, I know you said you could see the end in that time that you were like, oh my God, that's where this is going. But she's asking about like jumping scene because she's saying, like, sometimes I have to write a hard scene, so I skip to another scene so that I'll come back another time and write the hard one. I mean, you skip
Mm.
around, right? When you write scenes, you move them around and stuff.
No, no, I go pretty straightforward.
You go linear.
Yeah, I mean, for example, when my brain showed me that, I didn't go write that. I
Mm.
just, I did not go write that. I stayed where I was, believing that, I could veer off course somewhere, but I couldn't, and I didn't.
Yeah, and I think we're different in the way we write. You know, a lot of people write spatially.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
don't go like page one, page two, page three. They're like, oh, I'm writing this scene. I don't really know where it's gonna fit, but I know I want it to go somewhere, so I'll just write it. And then maybe it goes here, maybe it goes there. You know, like I think you can kind of move them around. Bren happens to write in a linear way, but she does see ahead. You know, she's not staying in this narrow place. I'm writing this and I can't see anything else. It's like, oh, that's going to happen at some point. It's like the
At
stake
some point.
at the
And
end.
the reason I write sequentially is because I believe that I can't write that until I've written this. This has to earn its place, and then I can write that. That's just me. But I do know some writers who write key scenes. They may not, they don't know where the beginning or anything is, but they know some key scenes that are going to take place, and they
Yeah,
allow themselves to write those to kind of get going. And I think that's a good idea.
yeah. I love that. Yeah, and it's sort of like if you can't write the painful thing right now, then write what you can write, and then when you're ready, maybe that's the last thing that's left. And so you've practiced enough and and sometimes that painful thing, once everything else is filled in, is in the white space, and it actually doesn't necessarily need to be as big as we think. So yeah, it's a good question though, Colleen, a really good question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And Bren, when you think about like people writing, getting their books done or getting their next books done or publishing or like, all the things, all the ways that we work together in the Gateless Academy, like what do you think is sort of the most important thing for a writer to remember as they're moving through this life work of being a writer?
Wow. Uh, a life work of being a writer. I think, let's see, let me think about that. think it's important to know why you're writing. And that has saved me so many times. I feel as though writing is bigger than me. I feel as though, and I'm old enough now to say this. I probably wouldn't have said this when I was younger, but I'm old enough now to say that I believe I was put on this earth to write. And so when you feel that strongly about it, you feel that it's not just me, that I'm on this earth to do this, then I must do this. I think
Yeah.
that's knowing why you write. Now, some people, just maybe want to write because, it's more of a hobby type situation. I understand that, and that is just fine. But I'm one of those serious people, very, very, very serious.
Yeah.
I am. I have a twin that says, Bren, you're so serious about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's probably in many ways the life breath for you, and
It's the life breath for me. My twin also said the other day, he said, Bren, you live your stories. It's not just an add-on for me. I absorb it and I live it.
yeah, no, it's so beautiful. And it's also beautiful, like that maybe we're given things all the time that we realize we were born with, and yet we're not doing them. We kind of push them
Mm,
aside and push them aside. But what happens when we open the doors and the windows and let it in and let it merge with us and let it drive us and let it get us up at 3 in the morning to work under the stairs or in the dark or whatever? Like, what happens, And we didn't talk about it because we didn't have enough time, but just to tell you guys, like, this book took off. You can quit the MFA, you can decide to write about a cow, you can, and what happens next is that 277 book clubs are asking you to come speak, are reading your book. You're publishing with one of the major indies and getting one of the biggest agents for your next book. Like we don't have to be in the straitjacket of the convention of this industry. We have to know craft. We have to surrender to the characters and to the art of it. But beyond that, these strictures or constrictions that are not the craft, that are not the art, that aren't sort of the gateless act of just letting yourself go, you don't have to pay that much attention to them, and it will still happen.
and it will still happen. Absolutely. Do you remember what I told you when I left the MFA program in the hallway? There's a word. Um, he said to me, the faculty guy said, you need to, you need to tame, you need to tame yourself. Remember that word tame? And that just set me off when he said, you need to tame this and tame that. And I said, no, actually, I'm going to go and set it free. I know. I know.
The exact opposite of what's needed. That's what Emma says.
And I felt like, like he had this whip. Tame yourself, calm down,
Don't be so good. Don't be so much better than me. It was a riot. Oh my God. Thanks, dude.
Look at you. Woo! All right, Suzanne.
Oh my God. I love you so much, Bren, and I love spending time with you. You are just one of my very favorite people on the
Oh,
planet.
I just love this. When I got your invite, I went, oh gosh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because there's such good energy here. You're doing good things. This whole gateless approach, get out of the structure and I mean, you have to know craft. Now, don't say I'm just a loose cannon, but you've got to free yourself.
Yeah. Truly, truly, you have to free yourself. And that idea that we know what to let go of and what to stay on track with, is
Mhm.
super important. Like, let go of the person who says you have to tame yourself, but be disciplined. About the art of surrendering to your art, like it's like really cool that, those two things exist side by side. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just awesome. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I mean,
Oh,
and will you tell us all when you're, I mean, I know you will, and I'll tell all the Academy alum and everything, but do let us know like what happens with the book and we want to all pre-order it and
oh.
we want
I
to be
will, but I've already engaged the Goodyear blimp to go around the
oh
country and shout it. And so you can look up in the sky one day and you, no, but I will gladly let you know. And folks,
yeah.
here's let me just say one other thing. We're
Yeah.
all in this together. We're all in this together, all in this together. So many people have given me a leg up, and I'm all about encouraging. And whatever I can do to encourage, inspire you, um, count on me for that.
Oh, thank you, love. Thank you so much. And I'm just going to keep bothering you again and again to come back.
No, not bothering, not bothering, gifting me, Suzanne.
And I just love that you wrote and were overcome by emotion. That says so much about how you're allowing something that's greater than the self to come in and move through you. Yeah. I love you,
Thank you.
baby. Good luck
I
with the
love you.
friends. Let me know how
Thanks.
it
Good
goes.
luck, everybody. I hope I get to meet all of you one day.
You will.
Thank
Bye, baby.
you. Bye
Mwah.
bye now.
Bye,
Bye
sweetheart.
bye. Bye bye.